next speaker is Barry Lyons, and Barry will be sharing with us a video. I hope this can work, and he will also be, I think Virginia Wasserberg will also be presenting with him. Is that right?
Yes.
He's talking about a climate testimony film for classrooms and church discussions, which is along the lines of what Lynn was just suggesting. Go ahead, Barry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here. This is my first ASA conference, and I am so grateful to be here. It's been a delight so far, and I'm especially grateful that I'm part of this session coming right after Louise's presentation, because in many ways, the project that Virginia and I will be talking about is a response to the similar issues that Louise was laying out. In case you weren't able to view the film Virginia's Calling in advance, it is up on as a poster session, and you can always watch it at virginiascalling.org. But in case you weren't able to see it, I'm going to start with a 2-minute trailer that will give you just a taste of the film and should help you begin to think about how you and your colleagues might want to use the full film. It's a 30-minute film. We think that Virginia's Calling is a tool that can help your students think about climate change and respond with hope, respond in constructive and faith-based ways. Again, along similar lines to what Louise was talking about. So I'm going to start by playing the trailer.
There's a church, so it's not far from where I used to live. My grandfather used to be the minister here before I was born. I had a job at the church. I would walk down the aisle in the morning, I would light the candles, take my little robe off, and then I'd leave and come down to the Pentecostal Holiness Church down here, and everybody would be running around, getting slain in the spirit. I would come out here and just sit here. This is one of my spots where I would like to come and just sit and watch the water.
We emerged from a very long and trying evening looking at a city that has been impacted by 14 inches of rain, and we've experienced levels of water that we have not seen.
And while we were eating, I noticed on our French doors that water started coming in.
She didn't feel her kids were safe. She didn't feel that she was safe. It was almost like a monster.
My husband said, well, let's pray. And he prayed that the Lord would hold back the waters. And I believed with every part of me, we would be protected and water would not enter our house.
I began to see that just within the confines of the church building, it just wasn't enough.
Found out these projects had been in existence for over a decade. All my house flooded because we didn't fund the project. One of the city staff members kind of made me feel like he didn't care because he's saying he doesn't know where it floods. That's God's purpose in this, is creating an opportunity for people to take this anger and use it for something good.
So before I say a lot more, and before talking with Virginia about the film, and I'd like to ask each of you to take a few moments to just reflect on your students, reflect on how they're thinking and how they're feeling about climate change, maybe how some of them are feeling distant or alienated from the church, maybe from their faith, from their families over this issue. You might also be thinking about difficulties that you've experienced yourself with your family members or in your churches. I imagine that most of you are here because you care about climate change, but we all know that climate change can be hard to talk about. So we created Virginia's Calling as a way to start conversations. We're going to take you through a few more clips from the film. and respond to them and talk about them. The first clip that I want to show you now has to do with Virginia's relationship with a scientist whose name is Michelle Covey. And to set the scene, I'm going to ask Virginia, how did you come to meet Michelle? Can you tell us about meeting Michelle? How that happened?
Okay, hi, thanks, Barry. Thanks everyone for having me here. So I came to meet Dr. Covey through the Thriving Earth Exchange Community Science Program. It's a pro bono program where scientists from all over the world get to participate with the American Geophysical Union and help people like myself and communities, essentially it's essentially just in America right now, but communities that have different climate change issues. My issue was flooding and sea level rise. And I got matched with Dr. Covey as a scientist to help me study the effects of climate change and sea level rise here in Virginia Beach, where I live, and to really understand more about why we flood here in Virginia Beach.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share that clip now.
Does anybody know when I met Michelle? I thought, here I am, just stay-at-home mom. She's going to come out in a white coat, and she's going to talk with words that I don't understand, and she's going to think that I'm some bumpkin. But Michelle came in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, just as laid back as she could be, and is talking with me on just a normal level. Why does it flood? What is this thing called sea level rise? I feel like God's given me the ability to take all this education and tell that to the rest of the community and help them learn as well.
So that's some of the story. We'd like to talk about this clip a little bit and kind of the larger conception of the film. Actually, Virginia and Michelle was how we met as well.
Right.
Michelle introduced me to you.
I think it was that you had reached out to Michelle and to find someone to center your documentary around. And Michelle and I just happened to be doing this community science program together. I think one of the significant parts about my relationship with Michelle was what the clip just explained is me understanding that educated professionals in our community like Michelle are not just some distant person sitting around in a lab in a white coat, but they are people who have information to share about our environment and about what is happening around us. And, it takes simple people like me, just regular folks just like me reaching out and asking these questions and saying, why did my house flood? Why is water standing in the street? What's really going on? We have these questions and we need people like Michelle and like people, that are here in this conference. We need people like that reaching out towards us and working with us and helping to explain what's really going on. My goal, I guess my passion comes from my faith and understanding, what's going on with the creation around me. And not everybody has that, but, there were opportunities where Michelle and I got to share some of my faith with Michelle, and she got to understand more about me and my faith and how that really motivates what I do in my community.
When I asked Michelle if she knew anybody who might make for a good subject for the film, I told her that I was looking for an evangelical Christian. And she said, well, I know this person in Virginia Beach. I think she's evangelical Christian. And so she put us in touch, and I was very taken with you and your story right away. One of the things that I want to just mention is that this is really about the power of stories to open people's minds and their hearts and to start conversations. I love scientific charts and graphs, and in an earlier cut of the film, we included a lot more scientific charts from Virginia's talk that she was giving that day that we filmed. My co-producer had to tell me that most people aren't going to really follow you through all of those charts and graphs, unless their hearts and minds are open first to the science. And so that's the aim of this project, and that's why I really wanted to capture your testimony on film, because that's the power of story, the power of personal testimonies to engage people and to, as I said, to open up their minds and to open conversations. I guess something else I'll say about your story, and this will come through in the other clips that I want to show, is that you helped me shift from a lot of fear to a lot more hope. When I started this project, I have to confess, I was driven more by fear than by hope. I had begun to learn about climate change, and I have 2 kids, as you know, and I spent a lot of sleepless nights wondering about what kind of legacy we're leaving for them and for future generations. And I think I've said to you probably more than once when we were filming that, Virginia, you're bringing tears to my eyes. And the reason is that your way of connecting climate change to your faith and to your God-centered hope and to your commitment to love helped me see that, inspired hope in me, and I think will inspire hope in other people. Inspired hope that we can move Christians to be a stronger force for addressing this issue and leave a better legacy for our children.
Can I just interject in that? I mean, my faith drives my legacy in what I do. I want to leave a legacy that says that, I've chosen to love others. And, with if you had a chance to preview the film, or if not, it explores, that my house flooded in 2016. And I got very angry about that. And a lot of my neighbors got angry about that too, because they flooded as well. And, this idea that we talked about before in the film of changing that anger around for something good, changing around for the good of our community. It was really my faith that interjected that in me and said, I need to really take this anger and turn it into love and turn it into loving others. And in doing so, I didn't know anything about climate change. It wasn't something that, I had really thought about. I thought it's very interesting in the first part of the session, talking about evangelicals or Christians, because I'm a Christian, and how it's not spoken about in our churches. And it's not. I mean, environmental concerns is not something that really comes up a lot in topics of conversations in churches. And so it really wasn't something that was on my brain or on my radar until a disaster hit my life. And I began to really reach out and see why did this happen? And it just connected with my faith, and knowing that, as we said, spoken about earlier, that we do have dominion over the earth. I guess I'm one of those Christians that looks at it in that light. I have heard before about how people say, "Oh, the earth's just going to burn anyway." So why do anything? That is a very true statement that comes up in our faith-based communities, but it's also a very true statement that we might say, "Oh, the earth is going to burn," but we also look at it and say, God wants us to take care of the earth. And that is part of our legacy of being Christians of our faith. And, I've often looked at this film and thought, what is Barry's legacy? Barry and I don't have the exact same faith going on. So what is his legacy in this? And I would have to agree that I have seen Barry go from being, scared and afraid to having hope that, people like myself, I mean, I am a conservative. I am a Christian, and but I'm driven by that faith. That faith is first in my life. In my politics, it's not first. My faith is, and so that's really what is driving me, and that's what really I think this film explores that. And how could I take that faith and integrate it into my community in a way that helps my community?
I want to show another clip that explores that really brings out that connection.
If you go all the way back to the beginning of the Bible in Genesis, God tells Adam to take care of the earth. There's this great plan for us to take what God has given us, and we are to take care of it. And what a blessing for the God of the universe to say, here's a whole earth for you to protect. I'm going to trust you with that. But there are also consequences to pay when you don't take care of something. Drilling into that earth and pulling up that oil is going to harm the creation that God has entrusted to us to protect, then don't do that. Find your source of energy somewhere else. And I guarantee you that if you look to God and you say, God, I need a source of energy, please give it to me, He will give it to you. He always has, He always does, and He always will.
Okay, so if we only have a couple more minutes, what I want to do at this point is really issue an invitation to all of you. We always get lots of questions. I always get lots of questions when I talk about the project, and there's never enough time to really have the full conversation that I'd like. And I really would like to have a dialogue with all of you, to think together about how we might use this film, how you might use it, to get your advice. Maybe we can even build some kind of curriculum around it. Anything else that I wanted to say? Well, I think you've seen enough already to see how this film is different from most climate change films. It's not a disaster film, although there is disaster in it, but it's a film that's really grounded in evangelical faith, and in a personal story about that. The film is available for free on our website.
Well, Barry, thank you very much. That was really interesting, and thank you for getting the inspiration to get us going on this, because we're interested in action and not just talk here at ASA. A lot of us are engineers, and we like to make things. So that's the kind of thing we like to see here. So yes, we'll have other opportunities during this meeting to interact with you and with others who are interested in projects like this. So thank you very much for sharing.